welcome to Tech Care Association webinar for today. I'd like to welcome our panelists in. You saw the bios there in the intro. And then real quick before we get started, we're going to talk about the prize drawings. Now, these are only available for the folks that are attending live. We'll got all your info on the Zoom webinar, and we'll be giving away some prizes later. So our top prizes, and we actually have some last minute additions too, which I'll mention in a second, but a $100 Visa gift card from the Tech Care Association, a custom hoodie from Help Cloud, which is really nice, looks comfy, t-shirts to a few lucky winners. But, you know, like I said, last minute ad here to prize drawings. Nicole, you said you were going to give away a little bit of prize. Tell everybody what that's going to be.
Yeah, so we have a employee support platform. It's really great. It has videos for all types of repair. We have hundreds of videos in there, diagnosing and everything, plus an 800 line you can call for help, and a community focused on building, culture with your team. So we'll give 2 free months to that to everyone's.
Awesome. Thank you, Nicole. Appreciate that. And Justin has an amazing prize too. What are you guys going to give away, Justin?
Yeah, not as cool as Nicole's prize there, but I can give you a fruit fixed hat. So
fruit fixed hat. I love it.
I love the hat.
It is a nice hat.
I love
it is a nice hat. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you. So we'll be drawing those later. We'll have info on that later. And a reminder, like we do on our webinars every month, if you join or upgrade your membership today, okay, so the next 24 hours, you're going to get a free t-shirt, okay, if you join or upgrade. And you're also going to get a membership upgrade to the next level. And you can see our memberships on techcareassociation.org/membership. And if you're if you get in now too, we'll automatically add you to one of the first people to get access to a new partnership deal we have coming up in the next month or two, which is going to be pretty awesome. It's like $50K worth of stuff. That's going to be pretty cool. More info on that in the coming month or two. But let's move on this morning. So I'd like to thank our industry partners, both Help Cloud, who's on the webinar today. Brock is representing Help Cloud, and Upluck. Upluck's a great marketing platform that you guys should check out. So they're both industry partners, and they help us to produce these webinars with their support and support our mission. So thank you to Help Cloud and Upluck. So I just want to remind everybody as we get into the webinar here, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, okay? We may not be able to address them immediately, but I'll be reviewing the chat to see if there's any good questions we can ask the panelists as we move through our topics here. So first up, a really important one, and that's the big news that hit this week about Apple's new self-service repair. So a lot of us have questions about how it's going to impact the tech repair industry. So we're going to chat about it for a few minutes here and get some feedback from folks. What I'll say, first of all, in terms of facts, what we know is that it's going to launch sometime in January of 2022. And it's going to be US only to start, and it's going to be for the iPhone 12 and 13 screen, battery, and camera, okay, to start. Now, they did say additional repairs are going to be available later next year, and that they'll be increasing it to 200 repair parts and tools for, again, specifically the iPhone 12 and 13. They also said in their announcements that self-service repair is intended, I'm quoting from the announcement, self-service repair is intended for individual technicians with the knowledge and experience to repair electronic devices. We at the Tech Care Association agree 100% with that. 100%. We think that devices should be repaired by people that know how to do it. And you guys that are in the tech repair industry are some of the best in the world. So we need to find out more about that. What we think might happen with this program after it launches in January 2022 is that Apple may move, we don't know this is just speculation, may move to lock down parts from third-party repair, like what happened a few weeks ago. With the serialization issue where, you couldn't use Face ID if you didn't use or you didn't sync the part after it was installed. So that's speculation, but it's one thing that we have to keep in mind. The last thing I'll say on this, and then I want to open it up to my panel, is the Tech Care Association believes that if we unite as an industry and work together, right, that we can influence what Apple has to do with working with our industry. So we invite everybody to join the Tech Care Association. Again, techcareassociation.org/membership, so that we can work together to help push these issues for our industry. So I'm going to bring on my panel here, and we're going to talk about the Apple self-service repair. So hey, who wants to start? We tried to start.
I'll take it. I'll take the hit.
Okay,
go.
Great, yeah.
I've been trying to process this for the past few days and try to just understand how I feel about it, because I am pro right to repair and I do want to work with the manufacturers, but I've always wanted just companies who work to a standard and know how to repair to be able to work with the manufacturers. So with the announcement though, the article did kind of confuse me, because I did see where it said for technicians to repair, but then it's for the customer to get their parts. So I'm like you, I want to hear some more details about it. I think it's good because it identifies and proves there's a shift going on. But the only thing that I am concerned about is if they throw something else in there that, you know, basically maybe in a year, it's like, well, you have access to all our parts and tools, but you have to use them now. Now we'll just lock down the phone. And it's sure, it might not affect stores too much, but I think it's going to change the landscape a lot, especially as people bring in parts. We're not going to be making money off the part. Then they're really going to see our labor fee, and then they're going to have these tear down manuals, and they're going to say, well, how long does it take? And it's just going to cause like some uncomfortableness. But I do believe that this is also a really important time for shop owners to really pivot, not get afraid and just want to close their doors, you know, look into micro soldering, expanding your technician skills. We are launching a course, just shameless plug. But you know, so I think it's going to be a good thing because there's a shift, but we just need to keep our eyes open. And I'm all for working for the manufacturers. I just wish they weren't so quick to bypass us and go right to the customer.
Yeah, I hear you. Justin, why don't we move to you? What are your thoughts on the subject?
Yeah, I share a lot of similar thoughts to Nicole on this subject, but you know, I think it's a move in the right direction. But I'm with her in the state of, you know, I wanted a little more information. It seemed a little hastily thrown together because it seems like, you know, for so long, you know, shops like us, we have standards too, right? You know, if you come to us for a repair and then you go to another shop to get it repaired, you have a problem, and then you come back to us, I'm going to look at you and say, well, hey, like, you know, we don't know what was done to that, you know, while it was in this other shop. So I guess I understand where Apple comes from in that standpoint, that, you know, they want to, you know, they want to hold their product to a standard that they believe, you know, is such, and we want to do the same thing. And so I guess I get that part of it, but I just want to make sure that they don't sort of bypass us, because it seems like that's the kind of thing, right? We've tried to open a line of communication here for so long, and then suddenly it seems like they just completely get an end around. Went from one, you know, no one knows how to do this, it's unsafe to repair these products, bypass the professional and go directly to this sort of like customer direct thing. And I just hope that's my only major concern, is that in that end around, do we get left behind? I don't think that's the case. And I don't think that they're going to lock down aftermarket parts, because even then there's still a, you know, a sort of an element to right to repair there as well, where just because you provide the parts, you know, you can't monopolize the market on that either, right?
Yeah, great point.
You know, Ford, you know, you can buy many different alternators for a Ford F-150. You can do these things, and there's reasons why people do that. And, you know, choose the OEM part is great, but, you know, when it's 20 years old, is that reasonable anymore? You know, if they ultimately shut down, you know, production of something, are you unable to get it anymore? You know, those are other things too. And that's where aftermarket steps out. So
yeah, great points. Thanks, Justin. Appreciate that. Chad, you're on mute, so unmute, please. And you know, give us your thoughts on the subject.
Yeah, I'm kind of right where Justin is. You know, I've said for a while, I don't think that you know, Apple's going to be able to move in a way that they're going to restrict people installing third-party parts. I see our industry going the route of the you know, the car dealerships and the car mechanics and third-party mechanics. I think that consumers are going to have the option, along with third-party repairs, to walk into, or not necessarily walk into, an Apple store, but order Apple parts, or have that option to go order through our many third-party suppliers, which you see in the auto mechanic world right now, and having the choice of doing it yourself, bringing it to a third party, or bringing it to the OEM. Again, as it always goes back to car repair. And that's where I see this industry going. I think this is a great first step, but I also think Apple is doing it kind of as a reactionary thing, where they see right to repair getting pushed through. with everything going on, up in the federal government. I think they're seeing that they're trying to grab the bull by its horns and see how they can kind of bring it the direction they want to go. But I think, back to Justin's point, if they restrict third-party parts from being installed, I think you're also going to see a big outcry on that too. They're not going to just be able to do that, I believe.
Yeah, great point. Brock, I know you guys aren't in device repair itself. I just wonder if you had any thoughts on the subject, though.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with the other panelists. And I think what's most important is that although they're taking good steps to work with consumers, not to leave the actual shops behind. Because most consumers, like myself, I use an iPhone right here, but there's no way I would want to jump into my own phone and try and fix it. I want to take it to somebody that actually has the know-how, but I want them to, Apple to work with them so they have the tools and parts that they need, and even allow maybe a cheaper option, like the other panelists mentioned, with third-party options.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're all in agreement on that. And we know, as people that provide or have provided quality repair in the past, like myself, that we will have high standards as well. And we want to take great care of our customers. Yes, there are some rogue players in the industry, and it would we would enjoy nothing more than to see those rogue players go away. So, we want to work directly with Apple to be able to provide, option for OEM parts. But I think, Justin, you really hit the nail on the head with like auto parts. When I go to my mechanic, he can usually offer me, 2 or 3 options in terms of quality and or price, for a repair in my car. And I want to be the guy who makes that decision. On one of my older cars, I might be, more inclined to put an older part in, or a refurbished part, because I don't plan on having that car for a super long time. But for a newer car, I might want an OEM part. I don't know. I don't. I'm usually not an OEM part kind of guy because they're expensive. And there's great quality with aftermarket parts, as there is in our industry. All right, we're going to wrap on that topic, unless you guys have any final thoughts on it. I mean, do you see this as it is a positive move, but is it something you think?
Just to add, I just worried about the part suppliers too. I have some great friends that are wholesalers.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, I agree.
And if I had, one thing to add too, I think, sort of the boogeyman for us in terms of repair, and this was, kind of alleviated to some extent with the iPhone 13, when they kind of did an about face on fixing the Face ID disablement and whatnot. I've always worried about that. When I say boogeyman, I mean, the software blocks, right? If they're going to offer these parts to consumers, my assumption would be that you're going to, give them full assembly screens and things like that. So to me, that would require an opening up of, Apple's internal software to allow us to reprogram Face ID and things like that when those things happen. So I have a feeling that to me alone, even if there are maybe some negatives that come out, I think it's a net positive for the industry as a whole. It's a realization on Apple's part that repair is part of their game plan going forward, no matter what. So
yeah, agreed. I there's a lot we need to learn about this topic, but we'll learn more. And I think with our next webinar in December, perhaps we'll talk more about this as we learn some more data.
Yeah.
So I'm going to cut myself off here and go to the next topic. And that's the job listing. So the webinar was programmed, and we'll try to answer questions too along the way. I know there's a couple in the chat, but the job listing. So in terms of hiring and training, the first thing you need, I think, is a good job listing. I personally, when I used to own my shops, I used to have a lot of luck on Craigslist. Okay. Don't know if that's a surprise or not. Love to hear you guys' feedback, but also for entry level. And I'll give you more details on that too, but I want to hear from you guys. Chad, why don't you start us off this round and tell us about your job listings?
Yeah, no, job listings. We go through some of the big ones. Indeed is the big one that we use, and we do Craigslist and Facebook and some of the free ones. We've had success on Indeed, and to be completely honest, I've gone on to some of the guys that we look up to, the Verizons, the AT&Ts of the world, and taking a look at their listings and really kind of tried to tie it into what our company culture is, but really hitting the big talking points of I hate the fluff words, this and that and this and that. What's the job entail? What are we looking for, and why are you going to enjoy it here? And what do we do differently than, say a large franchise repair shop or an AT&T or Verizon store? Because I feel like we are competing in the repair industry a lot for those wireless carrier store employees.
Yeah. So
and that's where I see success.
So you're personalizing it, for your business though. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Cool. Hey, Brock, what about you guys? Tell us a little bit about that job listing that you guys, in terms of looking for people.
Yeah, very similar to Chad. We've had our best luck on Indeed using even some of the sponsored postings there. But keeping it very direct and to the point has really helped, where here's what we do, here's what the job is. And then we probably spend maybe 50% of the job posting actually pushing culture, why you're going to like it here, why it's a good job, why it's enjoyable, because nobody likes working a job that's just, I show up and I grind every day and then I leave. So talking about some of the company culture and events and, fun stuff that we can do to make it more enjoyable has been huge as far as getting applicants in.
Nice. Justin, how about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, so tying in like a lot of what Brock just said there, trying to make yourself stand out and not be just another hole in the wall somewhere. Give someone a reason to want to work for you. And, like you had kind of touched on some of the entry level stuff, some of the best guys that we have hired here have come from, some of the best have come from a competition, but that's a whole other thing. A lot of them have just been in other situations where they were, tangible to tech in terms of maybe they worked at like a GameStop or something like that, right? But, that's a place where you're not getting paid very well. Your schedule's all over the place. You can kind of give them, an option to sort of move forward into something else. Like we have guys that come here and work for us and take better jobs after that. And that's kind of how I always view this. If someone, we have core players here that I hope stay forever. But there's some that if they use it as a stepping stone to somewhere else, that's kind of what you can kind of lead people into as well. And I think that tends to do well for folks. So.
Yeah. We used to stress that a lot too, is it being a stepping stone, and then backing that up with being a good reference for them. I would always talk to guys hire about being a good reference, and that's going to be good for you moving forward. Nicole, why don't you give us some final thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, for us, so we normally are not looking for people who are already cell phone technicians. We like to train them up. We found that it's pretty hard to reteach methods, and especially our methods, we're pretty strict on our repair standards with what we want them to do every single time. And so when I place a job ad, I will more put something fun out like, hey, have you ever worked at a Chick-fil-A? We want you, right? Because we want to target people. Well, it depends on what position I'm hiring. So if I want someone that's going to be a customer service person or more of a front end person, or even maybe eventually be a trainer, is that, that's the goal with that position, then I'm really looking for someone with a really good core customer service background. So somebody who's worked at Publix or Chick-fil-A or Jimmy John's or QT, some places in my area that I know have a really high standard for customer service, and they have great customer service training for their staff. But when it comes to technical staff, because at any time we have 30 people in the building because we do commercial repair, which I know some places have a lot more staff than that. But what I'm looking for is to bring on people that have CompTIA interests. So we'll put in an ad and say, are you interested in getting your CompTIA? Are you in school for that? Because some people are actually in college for like computer science and stuff. So they're already technically inclined a little bit. They may not be with hardware, but they tend to have the personality where they'll really latch onto it and own it. And then they come with the mentality to learn and soak everything up. And so, we put out our normal job ads describing everything that everybody's talked about, but I typically get better candidates when I target it to them and just say, have you done this before? Or are you interested in this? I don't spend so much time talking about the job. I just put what we're going to pay, and we start anywhere from $15 to $25 an hour. And, then right when we bring them in, as soon as they're hired, they go through our training, which is really, really important.
That's great, and kind of leads to a question we got in the chat here, which said from Dan, I think. In this climate, do you feel posting salaries pay is appropriate on the listing and effective to getting people interested? So you do, Nicole.
I do.
I'll ask you real quick, just a quick word here to wrap the topic. Justin.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you there. My bad.
That's okay.
I think at the end of the day, I think that's always going to be relevant in that, right? I mean, I don't know that pay is always the biggest driver of folks to come work for somewhere, but at the end of the day, we're here to work to make money. So, playing a game of hiding that until a different date or not being clear and concise on what you're willing to do for folks, I think that's, you have to include that as part of it. It's a fundamental part of going to work. So.
Nice. Brock, what about you guys real quick?
Yeah, we found our best luck is if we include like a pay range.
Okay.
With a lot of our
Yep.
pay structures, there's usually a base and then like an accelerator or commission potential. So including
Yeah.
a range of what, an average or high end rep is going to make has been really
Nice.
good.
Nice. Chad, what about you guys? Same thing?
Same exact thing as Brock right there. We do a range, and we do a base plus commission. So give kind of a range there what people can be making.
Nice, nice. To wrap on the job listing, something we used to do that I found very effective in weeding through candidates was that to ask applicants to send a resume and to include an email, what some might consider a cover letter, but an email saying why they're interested in the job. I used to find a lot of people just kind of blanket job listings. And if they didn't write me an email that mentioned the job, I just skipped over them.
I think in this job market, it's been really hard to do that because
Okay.
I don't know, in Atlanta, it's been rough. We're just glad to get them in the door. So I try to make it as simple as possible. And then once they walk in, we're just like, from very beginning we meet them, we just try to make the best of it.
Okay.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
Kind of what Rob. I'm sorry. There you go.
That's okay. No.
I was going to say what you were saying there. We do that as well, sort of like a weed out question. My thought process is if you can't follow an initial direction, how would I ever expect you to follow the 100th thing we've told you to do? So we usually do the same thing.
Yeah.
Resume,
100%.
quick little cover letter on some stuff. So
100% on that, Justin. That was my thinking in that too. So the interview. So you get somebody in and you're doing an interview with them. So let's kind of cover that. Brock, why don't you start us off here and just talk, briefly about what you guys do in the interview process.
Yeah, so we also have a recruiter that handles a lot of our interviews. I do some here and there when she's unavailable to cover those. But I know one of her favorite things to do is break the ice with them with a simple question of like, what kind of music are you into? And she'll even put that music on very quietly in the background just to kind of give a comfort level.
Nice.
But ultimately, it's kind of staying away from the whole grilling technique in an interview, grilling the candidate, and just making it much more conversational, back and forth, giving them plenty of time to ask questions. And very similar to our job posting, we'll actually spend about 50% of the interview trying to sell them on the company culture, especially in today's climate where Nicole mentioned it's much harder to hire people and get them in the door. Talking about benefits, all of those fun things with culture and that type of stuff.
Nice. Chad, what about you guys? How's your interview process work?
Yeah, we do a two-step process. The application comes in, and when we feel like they might be a good fit, usually we set up a phone call, just an introductory phone call, and that's more of us kind of going over what the position is, talking to them a little bit about what they're interested in and why they applied, and then kind of putting it all out there of not just pay and benefits, but what the day-to-day looks like, what they'd be responsible for, and answering any questions they have, because I feel like that weeds out a lot of people. Okay, well, the pay doesn't work for me, or the benefits don't work for me, or the schedule doesn't work for me. So then we don't get into that awkward second position where we're doing an in-person interview and they go, or we both go, "Ooh, this ain't gonna work." And then that second interview is kind of more of a sit-down, friendly, kind of shoot the breeze and get to know each other and answer any questions that you have.
Sure. Nice. How about you guys, Nicole? What's that interview process look like?
So I think we scale up so fast that we don't have a lot of time for that. So we just like want to get them in. So it's like, can you come today? When can you come? We use Indeed. So as soon as we get them in, I have somebody who's interviewing. Sometimes I'll just walk in and say, hi. I don't tell them who I am. I'm just like, hey, how are you? Just no pressure. And then we like to actually just bring devices to them and let them handle them and say, hey, look how cool this is. You're going to be working with this. We're going to teach you everything. You don't have to know anything. This is a really fun environment. We'll walk them around the facility and we'll talk to employees while we're walking through so they can kind of feel, oh, wow, this is really welcoming and inviting. And, we're just gauging them based on, their demeanor, are they slouching? Are they attentive? We don't usually base on eye contact. Because a lot of people that we have found that do really well at repair actually don't make eye contact very well, and they're not very chatty either.
Introverts.
So we're really just want to say, hey, are you interested? Do you know what a Phillips head driver is? Have you ever, what's your dexterity like? What are your wrists like? But that's it. We really just want to kind of see if they're interested. We have a really quick, we'll bring you on for a few days. You like it, you don't like it, it's fine with us. So we basically will bring on almost anyone. They have to be some really big red flags for us not to bring them on. And so we bring them on for a few days and we say, okay, you know, this is working, this ain't working, you know, and we move on really quick.
Yeah, cool. You know, it mentioned the skills, and I'll jump to you in a second, Justin. You know, I used to always do 5 skills that I look for, and I'd always put my hand up so I remember all 5 of them. But, you know, first of all, you know, they need to be a patient person. They need to have fine motor skills. They need to have an attention to detail. You know, we like people that were kind of a tech geek, right? That were techie. And then honesty was the last skill that we really asked for, because there's a lot of ways, you know, that can go wrong if somebody's not an honest person. And to be honest with you, every now and then I had somebody that would say, oh my gosh, you have to have fine motor skills. I'm horrible, my hands shake. And I'd be like, well, it's definitely not the job for you. And they'd be like, all right, thanks.
Well,
so yeah, I just found those 5 skills were really key. Justin, tell us about your interview process.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have a little bit of elements from a lot of the other folks here, but you know, for me, a lot of the things that I do in business, I try to change up things that I always hated when I worked for other places, and interviewing was part of that too. Like, I'm an outgoing person and I don't have a problem interviewing, but the same token, sometimes you feel like you're put in this situation where you've got to put this dog and pony show on, and are you really channeling your inner true self and sharing that genuine person, or are you just trying to give them what they want to hear? So like for us, I like loose interviews. Like, I mean, our guys, they come in, I mean, like, you don't have to wear a suit. I mean, don't come here in your pajamas, but like, you know, be relaxed. Like, I want to see how you react today, just as you would act, you know, if you were here working, right? And so I just feel like if you're going to go for those kind of things, and you're going to look for the things from a person, like kind of like Nicole was saying, you want to see what you're going to get. You know, you don't want to get the fake version and then have to, you know, sort of waste everyone's time. And big thing for me, I mean, I truly believe anybody can learn to repair. But there are some things like honesty and accountability, reliability. Those are things that are skills, and those are fundamental personality traits that are not easily changed in adults. So, you know, if those things aren't boxes that you check, usually, I mean, unless we are really needing a tie or someone, you know, we're really not even going to give you a shot at that point. I mean, that's generally one that, you know, we've got to move on from. So.
Yeah, no, that's great stuff. One other thing we used to use was we had a questionnaire that we'd ask them to fill out, not an application, but a questionnaire. Now, again, the job market was a lot more competitive back then in terms of lots of people looking for jobs. But we'd want to see if they could express themselves in writing. Some people couldn't. We'd ask them what they expected to make. I had a guy come in one time and say 75K, and we ended the interview right there. His wife set up the interview. You know, and then we'd ask them what the top 3 things they thought they could bring to the job. And it was revealing in a lot of ways, because some of them had great answers in there, right? That were like, you know, I love working with people, or I don't know, you know, they would just have different things they would tell us that. But then also some that didn't write anything. Like if they left those 3 things blank, we'd be like, what, you know, you can't give us 3 things, at least one?
I don't know. I think I found so many people that are just not verbal. Even we have hired a person that is considered blind, and he was turned down to every tech job. He's actually in a computer, and he literally has to hold the device like this, but he is my fastest and most accurate technician. And he was raised by his father, who has the same condition, who taught him how to fix things with his hands. So I also have a technician that shakes a lot. I shake a lot. A lot of my technicians are not verbal at all. They don't speak, but they are amazing. And so I think for me, when I started to realize that with the volume, we scale up and down every other month. It's like, okay, because sometimes we don't have a contract, sometimes we do. So it's like, it's just crazy around here. I just found like, okay, if you show up on time, you're looking decent, and you're here and you're engaged. Okay, let's just try you out.
All right. Hey, you know, and it's going to vary. All this is going to vary depending on where you are.
It is.
Laws are going to vary too in terms of hiring. So, you know, make sure you're accustomed to that. I know labor laws are very different from state to state and from town to town. Well, let's go ahead and move into, you know, you've interviewed somebody, you like them, you're going to send them a job offer at this point. You know, I'd love to hear, and Nicole, why don't we just start off with you? You know, what's that job offer look like? I mean, you sound pretty, you know, laid back on a lot of stuff. What's the job offer look like?
So we primarily will put them immediately into repair training, and we cover that. We pay them while they're doing the training. We give them 3 to 5 days to really kind of ramp up to a certain number of devices an hour. And then we have a very clear system to manage how many they're doing an hour. We start their pay at like an introduction rate, pretty much $14 to $15 an hour. We'll move them up just depending on how fast they can repair. There's bonuses involved also.
So,
yeah,
so it's kind of a tryout is what it sounds like to me. It's like you're interested.
It's not for everybody, and they think it's for them.
Okay.
They may be interested, and remember, they came with core skills we were looking for, either a CompTIA person or a person who has great customer service. And then my times are pretty flexible. So the building is open from 7:30 a.m. until 8 p.m. And as long as you're coming in between those hours, it's okay, because I have hired people with children and families and bus issues and sick kids. And so we do need people here every day, but unless I'm like, okay, my trainers I'm really a stickler with, like, I'm like, if it's 7:30, you can't be here at 7:31, right? But when it comes to my repair team, it's more like, okay, as long as you're here by this time and you're here by that time, then we're okay. Because I've just found, especially with millennials and newer generations, they don't value things like we do like that, as far as like being prompt, and like, that's not such a huge deal to them personally. And I feel like as CEOs grow and continue to grow, and we grow older, and our values, from newer generations change, we have to kind of change with them, so we don't get too stuck in our ways and don't understand that newer generations look at things a different way.
Flexibility is certainly important to the younger generations. Justin, how about you guys? What's the job offer look like for you guys?
That it's kind of a tough question to answer, because I feel like it's so different depending on the type of person we hire. I mean, I love giving people a shot at a new industry, especially if they're coming from somewhere where I think maybe they're in an employment situation where they're being maybe taken advantage of or something like that. So I mean, the new guy that's never picked up a screwdriver, I'm just like, I see something in this person, they've got something that I think we can work with. Their offers are going to be different than someone that, we hire away from another shop with, expectations that they know how to do all repairs. The only thing that we want to fix is make sure that they understand the way we do repairs, which is different. I know that sounds a little stupid, but sometimes, people have that habit. People can tell you they're an expert, and they very well are. I mean, but, they were never given a tool or a process or things like that. When we do iPads and things like that here, we use, adhesion promoters and things like that like other shops don't use, just little tasks that they never, maybe they're a great technician, they were just never given that tool. So it's just a little of those things to kind of, bring them up to speed and, and how we go about doing work. So it's kind of tough to answer in just a 1-sentence thing, but no, fluid depending.
Well, answer me this, and just, real quick, so we can move on to the other panels too. I mean, do you give a formal job offer, right? I mean, I remember the first
absolutely.
At college, I got a FedEx letter from AT&T with an offer, which, I thought was pretty cool at the time. But do you guys send a formal job offer?
We don't.
For me,
sorry.
Well, I was going to say, for me, I'm kind of an old school person too. So I mean, I'm good with a handshake. Hey, look, let's get to work. You tell me when you're ready, and let's get after it. And then, I feel like the more formal side of it for us would come, once we've understood that you're a fit, right? I don't want to spend a bunch of time doing all these certain things, and that at the end of the day, like Nicole had kind of touched on that, and maybe after 48 hours we realized, well, this wasn't exactly a fit. Sort of I feel like I crossed that bridge a little bit later, and that's just for us.
No, I appreciate that. Chad, what about you guys? What's the job offer look like for you guys?
Yeah, once we feel like we're ready to bring them on, we do send over an email that includes kind of an overview of everything we've gone over in the past. We do have when we're going through the interview process, we just created this the past year when we were having to bring on new people with COVID kind of going down and people kind of trying to find new people. But we have a compensation kind of overview plan that has our hours and what you'd be working. So we send that over with the offer, and then we just do the formal I agree or I accept or whatever. So we do send over a somewhat formal job offer.
Cool. And Brock, what about you guys? Do you guys send a formal job offer or what?
Kind of case by case, kind of like Chad mentioned. And there are those cases where we get just a standout applicant where we want to offer them right on the spot. And it's as good as a handshake and, hey, we're going to send you your new hire paperwork. That's just basically, hey, I can work here. And then there are other times where, usually for more senior level positions, where we are going to send a more formal email and craft something that has more of the descriptions, more of the pay breakdowns, things like that. But in the entry level, usually we do an interview. If they're standout, we can offer them right on the spot. And if it's
Nice.
somebody, or we've got a pool of candidates, usually we're following up with a phone call. And sometimes even a text. I know a lot of younger peoples will screen their calls and won't answer. So we actually have found we get better responses if we send a text.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I will add, we would always send a formal job offer via email, that included that it was a probationary period when they first started. And let me tell you why. We got sued one time under the FLSA, Fair Labor Standards Act. It's complicated. I won't go into it. But the thing that saved my butt and saved me more than the $20,000, $30,000 I had to spend on the lawsuit was the fact that we had a probationary period in the job offer. So we can talk about the legality of those things later, but it is something to consider and maybe think about. We do have a question, and I just want to do a quick go around on this question, guys. So just give me quick responses once I ask you this two-part question. And that is, what expectations have you given during the offer that leads to the candidate and company having a good experience? And what have you left out in the past that caused issues? So, any good things that a job offer maybe helps you with, and the bad things. I mentioned the lawsuit, right? That helped me. So that's kind of a bad thing. Any thoughts there real quick?
Yeah.
You go first.
Yeah, I mean, being really clear on kind of key performance indicators of here's what we expect in this role, and telling them, kind of like you mentioned with the probationary period, we call it the safety net, where for your first 2 weeks, if you're not hitting these metrics, we're doing everything we can to help you out. And then just making sure that they feel like we have their back and they're not just thrown to the wolves. We train you up and then you don't hear from us about your performance or how you're doing. That's been the biggest thing. And kind of to answer the second part, not doing that is the thing that has caused us problems. So
that makes sense. What about you guys, Justin? Any good seeing an offer?
I mean, for us, the main thing, as somewhat informal as I like things to be, we do have a formal aspect of like bringing people on. I do like to always offer them in person. And then, we let people know, this is a 30-day trial type thing, we'll put our heads together, in a few weeks. And, generally speaking, when I talk about getting to that more formal side of it, we have the conversation on whether that person's going to stay here, long before 30 days. Usually, usually get to that point. You'll know. It doesn't take you 30 days to figure that out. That just sort of gives us that, like you said, he had a Crockett said, it's sort of a safety net, right? So.
Yeah. What about you guys, Nicole? Real quick, any good and bads in the offer?
We just let them know that there's growth potential, that we have a lot of things going on and there's more for them. We've taken many employees and turned them into trainers, brought them on in different ways, given them to other clients afterwards. So it's just letting them know that there's growth there and it's not just a job.
Yeah, that makes sense. Chad, you got any closing thoughts on this subject?
As straightforward as possible and not fluffing up what they're going to be doing or what the position looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Always, if you want them to be honest and have integrity, you gotta be honest and have integrity too when you're dealing with them and what they should expect. So I'm gonna actually combine these last two topics, okay? And that because they're about training overall. But let's go through it real quick. And everybody knows Nicole is the queen of training, right? And offers a great program. I really honestly wish you would have been around when I started my business, Nicole, because we just sucked at training, quite frankly. And I would have gladly sent people down to your facility to train them when I had my business, because I see the value in it. But let's talk here on this subject, and Nicole, I'll let you lead off. So not only about new hire training, but let's also talking about a little bit about training and development. So the training process from start to finish, but we only have about maybe 10 minutes and then we'll close up on company culture after this. So Nicole, take the lead on training.
Yeah, so I think your initial training is really important, and that's something that companies don't do. We do training development for companies, and like I said, we have a support platform and an online training program. But if you are trying to set up your own internal training, there are actually platforms that you can purchase out there that are really inexpensive that hold videos in a course style format, and you can record your own videos. A lot of owners will say, I'm looking for something outside of me to teach people, but if you build your own course content within, it's really, really good, because also it's you as you grow up and out, right? And so having an initial training that you sit them down and they're doing it with a device, you know, they're watching the videos, they're following, they're actually working on a device, and then having them sit with someone and someone is watching them and actually correcting them as you go away. So, you know, as they go, so it's like, we'll have someone actually stand behind them or, you know, sit next to them and for hours and just correct their hand. Hey, do this, use that. No, it's like this. And then having follow-up training, right? And giving them space to ask questions, being sure that the person that you're having them ask questions to doesn't have any weird issues with other employees, because I see a lot of companies that we've worked with, we go in and look at things and yeah, this person is all sunshiny when we're around, but then we interview all the staff of the company and we find out that this person is often aggravated, often overloaded, and is taking it out on people who ask repetitive questions. And so either offering your staff an outside of your company place to ask help. I don't think Facebook chats are best for employees. A lot of stores that we're working with now to onboard to our support platform have their employees in platforms where there are people that are working out of their house, starting their own businesses. And it really is planting a seed to leave you instead of promoting your brand and how you are providing that community for them, you know?
Yeah.
And then just continual support training and continually updating them on new. Don't let them just look on YouTube and find it. Like, you need to find it or have a manager who finds it, create a training thing for it, or we could just use us.
Yeah, exactly. I just use Cellbotics, cellbotics.com, right? That's the website.
Yeah, it's almost
there you go.
Yeah, I could go on all day about training.
I know you could. I've heard you talk all day about training, Brock, yeah. And I love it. Brock, tell us what you guys do in terms of training, you know, onboarding, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, depending on kind of which department we hire him into, the training looks a little different, but typically it's anywhere from a week to 2 weeks. And our training is very, very hands-on, where there's a lot of shadowing. And then we flip that where we'll have the new person actually doing the work with somebody who's experienced and a veteran kind of walking them through it and helping correct them, just like Nicole said. We found that is one of the best ways to get somebody up to speed very quickly and build their confidence. And it also helps them kind of build a relationship with a coworker where it's like, oh, I've got somebody that I can go to and feel more comfortable asking questions. Because a lot of times we find that people don't ask questions. Either they're embarrassed or just don't want to appear like they don't know. So we do a lot of follow-up where it's more one-on-one, where it's like, where do you feel like you need extra training? Where can we help you? Because in a group setting, people tend to stay quiet. But in more of a one-on-one setting, they'll open up much more. And then another thing,
advice, by the way, I love that you guys do that.
Yeah, another thing that we've started doing too is, as far as like ongoing training goes, a lot of times people come into a company and they want to grow with the company, and the company doesn't always focus on how they can help that employee grow, whether it's within the company or even building skills they could use somewhere else. I think Justin very early mentioned it. Sometimes the company can be a leap pad to go somewhere else. So yeah, we've actually started with like our technicians offering to pay for up to 50% of like A+ certifications, networking plus, security plus. And that gets them really invested, where it's like the company's investing in me and I want to stick around and really help them.
Yeah.
I just want to say I love that.
Yeah, I know, right?
I do that too. And I'm like, yeah. I love that, Brock. That's awesome.
Yeah, investing in your people, you know, to help them, you know, take that next step. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I would use the phrase stepping stone. In fact, my guys used to kind of kid me all the time about just saying it all the time. But I'm like, hey, I want to help you get to the next step in your life. If that's with our company, great. You know, help us grow. But if it's not, you know, let's do something else. Justin, talk about that training, you know, that you guys do.
Yeah, I mean, just being super candid, I think if I had one area of our business that I think that we maybe don't do the best job at, it is training. It's difficult. It's hard because each person that comes in the door, at least for us, has a totally different needs, right? We like to hire people with experience, but sometimes like I kind of spoken about previously, it's not so much training them, it's almost retraining and trying to remove bad habits and things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, for us, the biggest benefactor for us is just, we use a lot of like demo devices, dead devices, things like that, just to get someone comfortable with it. And then once we feel like they've, gotten far enough along there, then we'll let them start tearing down good devices, and then, let them migrate towards, some customer stuff, get them into some basic, battery replacements and things like that. And, each person's going to move at a totally different pace. I mean, we like to, I always use a phrase like, there's two types of technicians in the world: those who have broken something and those who will. It just happens with the nature of tech products, right? We've all broken something. It doesn't matter. Like, just learn from those things and move on, and just make sure that if you have an issue, let us know. And, don't try to hide anything. Let us solve it. Let us show you what you did wrong, and we'll try to catch it and, keep it from anything like that happening again. So,
yeah, that's a t-shirt.
And preaching, moving slow. For us in the beginning, like, I want the repair to be done right. And if it takes 5 hours, compared to if I'm talking like an iPad or something like that, rather than you trying to fly through it and get it done in an hour. And a lot of repairs, it's almost like it's borderlines, almost like artwork versus a repair, especially when it comes to some of the things like iPad repairs that, truly the fastest repair is rarely the best one.
Absolutely.
So try to kind of instill those things in people.
Yeah. And that's why I used to push the idea of being a patient person. One of my best techs ever, who has a really successful shop now, was one of the most patient people I know in the world. He worked with an iPhone one time with liquid damage, and eventually, over weeks, found a tiny speck of corrosion that was on the LCD connector that was causing the display not to work, and cleaned it out. But it was just amazing how patient and how much he took his time to do that. Chad, tell us about your training process and what you guys do up at NH iPhone.
Yeah, so a lot like the rest of the crew here, we do a one-on-one training where, the new hire has a person that they feel comfortable with, who normally isn't a manager or an upper management person. They're somebody who's working in the shop day to day, they're shoulder to shoulder with. So somebody that they can feel comfortable with asking questions and not feeling like they have to hide any mistakes or anything like that. And kind of to what Justin was just saying is, making them aware that, hey, you are going to mess something up. And when you break it, own it. It's fine. That's one of the biggest things I stress. I like to say, hey, we put money aside for when you mess something up during new training, that we're aware that that's going to happen. And I think the biggest difficulty is that for our industry is kind of what these guys have been saying, is that, we're not we have Market Basket up here, but a grocery store where you can train somebody in a day or two and they can start cashing people out. We're investing a lot of time and money and effort into training people. So we make that abundantly clear when we bring on a new hire that, we want to find a long-term spot for you to succeed and move up with us, where we are a growing small business, whether that be, managing a shop or helping us open a new location, or being an operations manager, or finding something you really enjoy. So putting that straightforward and making sure that they understand, hey, you're coming on here and training, but you're not just going to be twisting a screwdriver the rest of your time with us.
Yeah. And just to give you credit too, you were at the ERC show, what was that, a week ago, last week, and you brought some of your team up there with you, didn't you?
Yeah, I think it's a fun way to have some fun and show them some appreciation, but
fun.
Also it's a blast.
You guys are great. This team is great.
They're a blast. But show appreciation, but also continue that education, and then also kind of light a fire under their butt that they see, Justin and Nicole, and say, oh, well, these guys are doing this, and see other people who aren't necessarily owners that are in a management role, and say, wow, these guys are working their butts off and really enjoy what they do. Let's get that passion back. Yeah,
that's awesome. I took a few of my guys to shows as well. Vegas was easy because flights were so cheap, but great experience, great to give them exposure to the rest of the industry. Because when you go to those shows, you see how immense the industry is and the cool stuff that's going on. So kudos to you on that, Chad. So let's spend our last little bit here. It's less than 10 minutes on company culture. Brock, I know you guys, this is probably where you guys lead, I think, because I love the way you promote your company culture, the way you throw it out there on social media, about what you guys are doing and different things like that. So talk to us a little bit about culture at Help Clap.
Yeah, I mean, we're really lucky that our owner has really made the effort to make that probably the number one priority. Um, but we do all sorts of crazy stuff that most companies wouldn't even think would be good. Something as simple as doing like a culture day during the week where people can not take themselves so seriously and participate. And then anyone that participates will raffle off a gift card to them. We do a ton of like quarterly parties, company swag, all sorts of different stuff. Probably the biggest one that's been a huge hit for us is every Halloween we go bowling. We rent out a bowling alley and take all the employees down there.
Nice.
And then we highlight all the employees on social media.
Yeah.
Shout them out. They love seeing that recognition and makes them feel loved and like we like having them here. But yeah, I mean, it's probably the biggest battle that I feel like every company faces is how do we make this a good place to work?
Yeah.
And I think the less serious you can make it and just focus more on keeping it lighthearted and fun, the better. Especially when, you know, there can be a little bit of, you know, fun ribbing with people. The reps love to rib the managers and give them a hard time. And, you know, sometimes you just have to take it and let it happen and keep moving forward with it. But yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that we've been lucky with. A lot of it's actually happened organically.
Nice.
And we haven't really had to try. We've got a really cool management team and it's like I said, it's happened very organically. But yeah, if anyone wants to check it out, look at Help Cloud's Instagram or our LinkedIn page. We're always posting stuff up there.
Yeah, you guys do a great job with that. Nicole, I think I've seen you guys do a couple of TikTok videos maybe with your staff.
Yeah, we do. We just make it fun. We constantly, it's probably daily, just tell the staff how much they mean to us and how important they are. And we just remind them that the better you do, we tell them, we don't expect them to know. Every other day, every day, sometimes I feel like I just walk around giving compliments, but I'm saying, you know, the better you do, the better the contract, the happier the client, the more I can do for you. You're important to me. I can't do this without you. And I want them to know that they're a part of something important. And then just reminding them that they can own their job and just tell them, what's your opinion? Tell me. I want you to tell me. I don't care if it's against my opinion, what I have in place. Like, and them knowing the door is always open. If they're having an issue with the manager, that there's not a barrier between me and someone else. They know that if there's something serious that they need to talk about, that they can just knock on my door and I will talk to them about it. And so, you know, there's definitely boundaries and stuff, but just letting them know how important they are and then just doing fun things and, you know, just taking care of them and understand that life happens. And when they really, really need something, that we are there.
That's awesome. That's a great way to connect with them. Justin, how about you guys? What's the culture like at Fruit Fix?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, you know, I kind of touched on this before, you know, I like to do things differently than places I've worked previously. But, you know, I like to do the opposite of emulating some things that I did like. I take a lot of good too. I haven't always worked at bad places, but, you know, take some of the things that, you know, you enjoyed about those places. And, you know, like you touched on company events. I think that's a really big part of it. And then even, you know, sometimes it doesn't even have to be the big, you know, orchestrated events and things like that. You know, if you see a guy that, you know, on his way into work, or, you know, he had been coming from across town, stopped into the shop because he knew that the store needed a part or something like that, grabbed it before he was even, you know, clocking in, you know, send the guy $20 through Cash App and say, hey, you know, go grab yourself some lunch and, you know, just little things like that. And like little tokens that people know that, hey, look, you know, you saved me or someone else a trip across town, you know, just in little events like that. I think it goes a long way to people knowing that, you know, no, you're not just some figurehead in an office punching payroll and, you know, leaving at night and not thinking about what goes on in their life either. And so valuing people's time, I think, is a big part of it too. Because I mean, I value my time, you know, and I want people to know that I value theirs too, and know that they're giving a significant portion of their life to this company that, you know, helps us all and helps us grow this company. So, you know, and nothing. I mean, I just had this happen the other day. I had a guy that worked for me for a couple of years. Left, took an opportunity to kind of channel what he was doing in college, and, you know, gives me a hug on the way out. That kind of stuff. I never worked in companies like that before. So it's sort of when you see that those things happen, I don't know, it's cool. It really is.
That's awesome. I love, number one, the Cash App idea. That's great. And then the hug on the way out, because, you know, I've had people and maybe worked at some places where I had other expressions on my way out and wanting to hug somebody.
Oh, likewise. Yeah. two fists with something I pointed out.
Exactly. Yeah. We won't do it on the webinar there. I'll get in trouble. When
Well,
we post this to
one of those like
YouTube.
Hollywood videos with a lighter and the boom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Chad,
I've worked in
let's
one or
move
two of
over to
those
Chad
before.
real quick, so we can hear a little bit about the culture up at his place. Chad, tell us.
Yeah, I mean, guys are all hitting the nail on the head. It seems like, just showing appreciation. Kind of the same as Justin and Nicole. When I'm stopping in the shops, I try to hit every shop at least once a week just to have my face seen, say hello, check in, make sure everything's running smoothly. And it's not just you have to go to your manager. There's not that, like Nicole said, there's not just that wall there that you can't come to me. You can shoot me a Slack. You have my personal number. Reach out to me with any questions or concerns. But stopping in, buying lunch, saying hello, and then as Brock was saying, we try to do quarterly get-togethers. This industry is funny because our 6 locations are about 30 to an hour apart from each other. So a lot of the team sees each other on our Monday morning meetings, and they see each other in our Slack channels. But a lot of them, especially if they're new, haven't met each other, or they don't get to spend a lot of time together. So getting everyone together, whether that means we close up for a Sunday or we close early on a Wednesday and we go paintballing, or we do a Christmas party, or we just do a get together bowling, or just say, hey guys, let's go have dinner, and we'll buy everyone dinner, have some beers, and get to catch up. Is really something that we try to do, especially where we're a younger company with a young team. Those things really stick out, making everyone approachable, and making, especially as the owner of the business, who's not just in the store every day, showing that I'm a normal guy who likes to have fun and likes to socialize as well.
Yeah. That's all great advice, guys. And taking an interest in your staff is so important, and showing them that they care is so important. And the only thing I would add to that is just making sure you're intentional in doing that. I know Brock and Chad both kind of mentioned a schedule, and I know that sounds kind of corporate in a way, but if you're not intentional in those efforts, you may forget, or you may be in a bad mood the day you were planning on taking everybody out after drink, and then not want to take them out to eat. So just put stuff on the calendar, say, hey, we're going to do something on this date, and we're going to make it happen. So you guys are all very awesome. We are going to start to wrap here.
Hey Rob, can I add one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead real quick.
One other thing that I didn't mention just a minute ago, I think it's super important as a company to recognize employees and make them feel like we care about their work. But another thing that we've done, because we've been so fortunate, we get a ton of really positive online reviews, is we'll actually read those online reviews from customers in company meetings, and shout out the employees that did it. Because I think it goes a long way for the employee to say, my company appreciates me, but what I did actually meant something to that customer and really helped them. So just another thing.
That's awesome. I love that, reading the positive stuff as opposed to the mean tweets or the bad reviews. That's a great tip. All right, and to wrap up today, and you guys know I like to end on time, prize drawings, we move offline, so we have a record of everybody who attended the webinar. If you attended, your name will go in a hat. We'll draw them out for the prizes. We have some awesome prizes. Thank you to Help Cloud for the sweatshirt or the hoodie, to Cellbotics, for your prize, and to Justin too, our add-on prizes there. And then we have a few more. So thanks for that, guys. I really appreciate that. And then finally, as I move into my last slide, I just want to remind everybody, we will have another webinar on the 30th of December. It's going to be a fun one. And all you guys are invited, by the way, that are my panelists today. Thank you for being here. We're going to try to get as many of our panelists that we had in the last 6 months on that final webinar. So join us then. We'll talk more about the Apple issue. We'll talk about stuff that's going on in the industry as well to wrap up the year. So hopefully it'll be fun. We may go a little longer than an hour because I'm kind of strict on that. We're a minute over now, for instance, and I'm going to have to edit down that minute when I go up to YouTube. So thank you all for attending. Thank you, panelists, for being on here. You're great people. You're doing awesome work. And I can't wait to talk to you again. So thanks, guys.